I was bored, so I did a thing. So I started off by bending this wire. I took out this old piece of foam that I just had lying around. This will be used as the base for now. You can now enjoy the view as I struggle to try and put these two pieces of wire together. Now, I pull out one of my favorite friends. The drill. The reason I'm using this smaller wire and using the drill to bend it up is basically it makes it strong. I then attach it onto the base, whip out the old drill, and do it again. To ensure the base stays together, I add some super Sculpey and some bacon bond to ensure that they stick together. I then bring out another one of my friends. The reason I did this was so that before I threw it in the oven, I could slightly harden it. After my friend here was done scorching in the oven, I gave him girth in non-girthy places so that he's not just sticks and bones. When I was done adding all the aluminum foil to the base to bulk them out, I then started adding clay. I then start the process of engirthing his legs, adding more and more clay until I think it looks appropriate. After I girthed them out a little, I started to smooth all the rest edges and make it actually look like a pair of calves, or like a calf. After that, I then start to work on his feet. I then start sculpting what I assume are his toes. Or they look like his toes? We're gonna go with toes. Start attaching balls to his little nubs, turning them into feet and poking holes in them. After I sculpted enough feet for today, I moved on to his torso area, sculpting his ribs and abs. I start out first by sculpting out the little indents where his abs will go. And then moving on to those big holes that are inside of his stomach, making sure to poke them both on each side. After all that, I then define the shapes and started adding both of his oblique things on the side of his torso. I was now on the ribs, where I had to precisely poke out each and every single hole and create very straight lines. Making sure to only get the sharpest of lines, like I'm giving him a crispy lineup at the barbershop. Just look at how crispy those lines are. After all that, I then do the exact same process on the other side, meticulously crafting my pure perfection of straight lines. I then give this spineless creature, aka Demogorgon, a spine by digging my sharp tool into his back, creating, well, a spine-shaped spine. I then start smoothing out the rough edges of his spine. After talking a little bit too much about backs and spines, I then start to work on his rhomboid-ish placed muscles, making sure to poke and prod at them appropriately. Then we move on to anyone's favorite part, the gluteus maximus. I will, of course, be giving you a time lapse of all of this. Now that the time lapse is done, I wrapped a semi-thick sheet of clay around his thighs and started poking away at it until I thought it was the right size. I'm cutting down on them and adding tiny little bits of muscle here and there and blending them in to give this sculpture a little bit more texture. I wrote out a tiny little piece for the calf and attached it to the body. I finished with this calf. I worked on his other foot, doing the same thing I did for the other foot. A big blob and attaching 3 little circles to it, poking and prodding holes into them. I slightly pushed him off the base so I could make his feet a little bit better and a little bit easier, which is why I started off with this temporary base. I was smoothing him out with some isopropyl alcohol all over his rough edges to make them smooth. When I smoothed them out, it is now time to make muscles splitting up, and I couldn't see most of his muscles, so I just kind of added lines in spots basically until he looked like he was skinny enough. Natural disasters. My baby is blue around me. Kingdom be falling, angels be calling. None of that could ever make me leave. Every time I look into your eyes, I see it. You're all I need. Every time I get a bit inside, I feel it. Now on to my favorite part of the sculpture, the musculature, making all the muscles more 3D, and it really brought the sculpture to life. To me, but this was the funnest part, out of the entire sculpture. I remember when I sculpted that part, I was like, wow, those muscles are actually helping out a lot. And then I gave him another once over with some alcohol. I believe mine was 90%. making sure to smoothen out all those new muscles and dents I just created on him, and getting off all the tiny pieces of clay that were stuck in him from sculpting out and making all the muscle and dents. Now that I'm done with the lower section of his body, I started to work on his chest, adding 2 blobs of clay. I smoothen out his chest, making sure to connect it nicely to his body. And then I begin adding more musculature to his chest, making sure to blend it in and make it look nice and natural with the rest of his body. I then repeat the same process on the other side and move on to adding his skin texture. But I made sure to get it all over his body, making sure I didn't miss a singular spot on him. After all that, I then washed him with some alcohol and threw him in the oven to be torched, and then got to work on building his arms, sculpting it piece by piece. Sculpting his left arm first, and then making sure to do the exact same thing on his right arm, but on the left side. I started defining all of the muscles on his arm, starting off with his shoulders, working onto his biceps, triceps, and then all his forearm muscles, making sure they look nice and alien-y. I did the exact same thing on the other arm. I then give him a nice girthy neck for whatever girthy neck needs he may need. And then start making his mouth, making a big circle-y shape. I then add his bottom jaw for whatever bottom jaw needs he may have. Then I sculpt his paddle things one by one, starting off with this singular one. I make 5 after this and make sure that they all go where they're supposed to go. I then got to adding musculature and girthiness to his neck for all of his girthy neck needs. I then pre-baked a whole bunch of tiny teeth and started attaching them to him one by one, using bacon bond on every single tooth and then adding them all into the side of his mouth, including the inner parts of his mouth. I hit him with an alcohol wash one more time before he goes into the oven to be scorched one more time. After my good friend over here was done being scorched, I started painting him with an alcohol wash, which is basically just paint mixed with water and some alcohol, and it makes it really nice and runny, and it sticks very well. I then did that all over his body, and then started adding these tiny little things of like darkish, brownish, reddish color. I made sure to get that in all of his crevices, which will then be covered up later with more washes, but in slightly darker tones. You can see now how all of his crevices are nice and covered up with the darkish, brownish, reddish skin toner, colorish paint. And then I start to paint his mouth a nice bright red. And I then work into that mouth with some mixing it with some other darker reds. When I was done painting all of the reds and all the other colors inside of the mouth, I went on to painting slightly darker and darker shades of gray onto his body. And I did this until I thought he was appropriately colored. So whenever I thought it looked fine and it matched the reference, I was like, all right, cool, that's good enough. I will now give you a montage of me painting them. Every time I look into your eyes, I see it. You're all I need. Every time I get a bit inside, I feel it. Feels like I get you. And I swear it feels like After I finished with all my washes, I then got to dry brushing to highlight all of the edges and all of the bumps that are elevated from all the texture I've made, which will help show all the texture on him. I made sure to do this multiple times all over the body to really highlight everything. If you're wondering what dry brushing is, basically, it is removing almost all the paint from the paintbrush and then using whatever is left on the brush to then get this slight paint that comes off only on the edges. This particular thing is really useful, like especially with rocks or anything like that, or metal or rust, anything where you want it to only show on the edges of it. I'm now moving on to the teeth, painting them one by one now that I'm done with the dry brushing. After I finished painting all of his teeth, I made this small base out of clay that was covering aluminum foil. I take him off the base as to have him out of the way. I then got to texturing the best way I can without a rock, and that was smashing this with some crumpled up aluminum foil in the shape of a ball until I got a nice rock looking like texture. And I just did that all over the base. I started adding wormy dealy, tentacle dealies all over the base because I thought that the base looked a little too plain. So I just added these all over the base in random spots to make them look quote-unquote natural. I also don't know what these are called or if they even have a name, but we're calling them tentacle dealies. So I just added some random tentacle dealies all over the base until I liked how many there were, until I thought there was enough. And then until I thought that they looked good. And then I then blended some of them in, but I didn't like how it was looking, so I decided not to do the rest. I then started to put some layers of wash all over this base, including the little tentacle dealies. I started to paint all the tentacles black all over the base, one by one, meticulously, making sure to cover all of them and every foot of it, going over with multiple layers to ensure full coverage. After all the tentacles dry, I then began painting the toenails white. This doesn't feel like a monster that would have white nails. And now we're done and on to the glory shots.